Welcome back to another episode of the Emma International Deep Dive podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Sarah. Today, we're discussing how life sciences organizations can prepare for FDA inspections before they happen by building a culture of continuous readiness.
The phrase inspection readiness often makes people think about what happens after the FDA announces an inspection. Teams begin reviewing documents, cleaning up records, scheduling preparation meetings, and trying to resolve years of compliance concerns in a matter of days.
Which is usually a sign that the organization was not truly inspection ready. An inspection may be scheduled with some advance notice, but organizations should never assume they will have enough time to prepare. Depending on the circumstances, FDA investigators may arrive with little or no warning.
Exactly. Continuous readiness means operating every day as if an inspection could begin tomorrow. It is not about creating fear or placing employees under constant pressure. It is about building reliable systems, clear responsibilities, and good documentation practices into normal operations.
When compliance becomes part of the organization's daily culture, inspection preparation becomes much more manageable. Instead of scrambling to correct problems, the team can focus on presenting the organization accurately and confidently.
Sarah, when we talk about continuous readiness, what does that actually look like in practice?
It means that procedures reflect how work is really performed. Records are complete and accessible. Employees understand their responsibilities. And potential compliance risks are addressed before they grow into larger problems. It also means leadership has visibility into the health of the quality system. They should understand where recurring deviations are occurring, whether CAPAs are effective, which training requirements are overdue, and whether internal audit findings are being resolved on time.
So, continuous readiness is not simply keeping documents organized for investigators.
Correct? Document organization is important, but readiness goes much deeper. Investigators want to understand whether the organization's quality system is functioning effectively. They may look at how a procedure is written, how employees perform the procedure, how that activity is documented, and how the organization responds when something goes wrong.
And if those elements do not align, that can raise concerns.
Absolutely. A procedure may appear compliant on paper, but if employees are not following it, the organization has a significant gap. The same is true when employees follow an informal process that is not reflected in the approved procedure.
Let's talk about the common approach of preparing only after an inspection is announced. Why is that so risky?
Because serious quality system problems cannot always be corrected quickly. An organization might be able to organize a file or update a training record, but it cannot instantly create a history of effective oversight, timely investigations, or sustainable CAPA management. Investigators often review trends over time. If records show repeated deviations, overdue investigations, incomplete training, or CAPAs that failed to prevent recurrence, a few days of preparation will not erase that history.
Last-minute activity can also create new risks. When employees feel rushed, they may make inconsistent statements, change records improperly, or provide information before it has been reviewed.
That is an important point. Records should never be backdated, altered without proper controls, or created solely to make the organization appear more compliant. If a gap is identified, it should be documented transparently and addressed through the appropriate quality process.
In other words, the goal is not to create the appearance of compliance. The goal is to maintain compliance consistently.
That's right.
Building a culture of readiness sounds like an organization-wide effort, but where does it begin?
It begins with leadership. Employees pay attention to what leaders prioritize. If management focuses only on production deadlines, cost, and speed, employees may begin to view quality activities as administrative obstacles.
But if leaders regularly discuss quality metrics, provide sufficient resources, and encourage employees to report concerns, that sends a very different message.
It does. Leadership should make it clear that raising a potential compliance issue is responsible behavior. Employees should never feel pressured to ignore a deviation or take a shortcut to meet an operational target. Leaders also need to participate in management reviews, understand the organization's most significant quality risks, and ensure that commitments are followed through. Quality cannot belong only to the quality assurance department.
That is one of the biggest cultural shifts organizations need to make. Quality may oversee the system, but every department contributes to compliance. One of the first things investigators may examine is the relationship between written procedures and actual operations. How can organizations keep those aligned?
Procedures should be reviewed regularly, especially when processes, technologies, responsibilities, or regulatory expectations change. Employees who perform the work should also be involved in procedure development and review.
Because they can often identify steps that are unclear or unrealistic.
That's often where the most valuable feedback comes from. A procedure may look perfect to someone who does not use it every day. The employee performing the task may notice that a step is missing, a form is outdated, or the required sequence does not reflect actual operations. Organizations also need effective change control. When a process changes, related procedures, forms, systems, validations, and training requirements should be evaluated together.
Otherwise, one change can create several disconnected compliance gaps.
Right? Continuous readiness depends on managing the full impact of change, not simply approving one revised document.
We cannot discuss FDA inspections without talking about documentation.
Documentation is essential because investigators use records to reconstruct what happened. If an activity was performed but not documented appropriately, it may be difficult to demonstrate that the requirement was met.
What documentation problems commonly create inspection concerns?
Some common issues include missing information, late entries, unexplained corrections, inconsistent dates, incomplete approvals, uncontrolled forms, and records that cannot be retrieved promptly. Data integrity is another major concern. Organizations need controls that help ensure data are complete, consistent, accurate, attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and available throughout the required retention period.
This applies to both paper and electronic records.
Absolutely. Electronic systems do not automatically eliminate data integrity risks. Organizations still need appropriate access controls, audit trails, system validation, backup processes, and periodic reviews.
Training records are another area that investigators commonly review. Is completing assigned training enough?
Not necessarily. A training record may show that an employee opened a procedure and acknowledged it, but that does not always demonstrate that the employee understands how to perform the task correctly. Training should be appropriate for the employee's role and the complexity of the activity. For higher risk tasks, organizations may need practical demonstrations, competency assessments, supervised performance, or periodic retraining.
Employees should also understand the reason behind the requirements.
Yes, people are more likely to follow a process consistently when they understand how it protects product quality, patient safety, and data integrity. During an inspection, employees should answer questions honestly and only within the scope of their knowledge. They should not guess, speculate, or attempt to provide an answer they think the investigator wants to hear.
How should internal audits fit into continuous readiness?
Internal audits should be used to identify vulnerabilities before an investigator does. A strong audit program looks beyond whether procedures exist. It evaluates whether processes are effective and consistently followed.
That means reviewing records, observing activities, speaking with employees, and tracing information across systems.
Yes, an organization should also perform periodic mock inspections. A mock inspection can test how quickly records are retrieved, how employees respond to questions, how requests are tracked, and how the inspection team communicates internally.
Mock inspections can reveal operational weaknesses that may not appear during a standard document review.
They often do. For example, an organization may discover that records are technically available but stored across several systems with no clear owner. During a real inspection, that delay could create confusion or suggest that the organization does not have control over its information.
You mentioned deviations and CAPAs earlier. What should organizations monitor in those areas?
They should look for repeat events, overdue investigations, weak root cause analyses, and corrective actions that address only the immediate symptom. For example, if the same documentation error occurs across multiple departments, assigning another round of training may not be enough. The underlying cause could involve an unclear procedure, poor form design, an overly complex workflow, or inadequate system controls.
So, a CAPA should not be considered successful simply because the assigned tasks were completed.
Correct. Organizations need effectiveness checks that determine whether the action actually prevented recurrence or reduced the identified risk. Trend analysis is also critical. Individual events may appear minor when viewed separately. When reviewed together, they may reveal a systemic issue.
Even with strong systems, employees still need to understand what to expect when an inspection occurs.
Yes. Organizations should establish an inspection management procedure that defines roles and responsibilities. Employees should know who will greet the investigator, who will serve as the primary contact, how document requests will be received and tracked, and who will review materials before they are provided.
It is also helpful to identify subject matter experts in advance.
Definitely. Those individuals should be familiar with their processes and comfortable explaining them clearly. Preparation should focus on helping employees communicate accurately, not teaching them scripted responses.
That distinction matters. Investigators may ask follow up questions, and overly rehearsed answers can quickly fall apart.
Employees should listen carefully, answer the question that was asked, and be honest if they do not know the answer. It is perfectly appropriate to say that they need to confirm the information with the correct subject matter expert.
If an organization wants to improve its inspection readiness today, where should it begin?
I would recommend starting with a readiness assessment. Evaluate the current condition of the quality system and identify the areas with the greatest compliance risk. Then review inspection history, internal audit findings, complaints, deviations, CAPAs, recalls, training data, supplier performance, and quality metrics. These records can help reveal patterns that require attention.
Organizations should also confirm that critical records can be retrieved quickly.
Yes, conduct record retrieval exercises and verify that employees understand the inspection management process. Review the FDA's current inspection priorities and any enforcement trends relevant to your products and operations. Most importantly, do not wait for perfection before addressing known gaps. Document the issue, assess the risk, establish a realistic remediation plan, assign ownership, and monitor progress.
The biggest takeaway from today's conversation is that inspection readiness should not be treated as a temporary project.
It should be a normal state of operation. Organizations that maintain accurate records, investigate problems thoroughly, monitor trends, train employees effectively, and demonstrate strong leadership oversight are better positioned when an inspection occurs.
Continuous readiness also provides benefits beyond the inspection itself. It can reduce operational disruptions, improve decision making, strengthen product quality, and help protect patients.
An FDA inspection will always create some level of pressure, but it should not create chaos. When readiness is built into the culture, the organization can approach the inspection with greater confidence and transparency.
If your organization needs support evaluating its inspection readiness, conducting a mock inspection, strengthening its quality systems, or preparing employees for interactions with investigators, EMA International can help.
Visit www.emainternational.com to learn more or speak with one of our regulatory and quality experts.
Thank you for listening to the EMA International Deep Dive podcast.
We'll see you next time.